Hey guys, welcome back to our grow along. This week we're going to go over how to harden off your seedlings. We're going to go over how to plant a couple of things directly in ground and what to do in your garden this week to get ready for that super busy spring that's coming in just a couple of weeks. Let's get into it. Hardening off is just the process of acclimating your seedlings from inside conditions to outside. Now this is done over a series of days. All you're gonna do is you're gonna bring your seedlings out for 2 to 3 hours the first day, and then every day for about a week, you increase the amount of time that they spend outside. Now you wanna try to put them someplace that's a little bit sheltered. So you don't want anything that is too harsh of light. You don't want anything that has super strong wind corridors, so you don't want them in a wind tunnel. And you don't want someplace, if it's rainy, you don't want them someplace that they're gonna become waterlogged. So like under the eave of the house where they're gonna get the water right off the edge of the roof, not a great location. Ideally, you're putting them in someplace like a low tunnel or a cold frame, and you're letting them slowly acclimate. Now that low tunnel or that cold frame, you're gonna have that up and open so that it's not a mini greenhouse. You want it to have as much airflow as possible so that they're slowly getting used to these outside conditions. Now, if you tried to plant them outside directly in ground how they are, they're going to really struggle because they haven't had time to adjust, and they can even get sun scald or can really burn their leaves, and they're gonna it's just going to really stunt their growth, and that's not what you want. Now here in Central Texas, we are expecting such beautiful temperatures for the next week that I've even bringing out my peppers and my tomatoes during the day so that they can get sunshine. No matter how good your grow lights are, the sun is always far superior. Plus, they're gonna get the wind, they're gonna get toughened up a little bit. As they're in the natural environment they're gonna grow in, they're gonna be able to handle it so much better the more they're exposed to that. Now here, we're looking at 70s in the daytime and low 40s, upper 30s at night. That's not terrible, but it's cold enough that I am bringing in my tomatoes and peppers at nighttime just to make sure that they're not getting we don't want anything to stunt their growth. We want them to be strong, little robust seedlings that take off really well once they get planted. The first crop that we're direct sowing is fava beans. Now, fava beans are really popular on, I grew up watching Gardener's World and some other British and UK gardening shows, and everyone over there loves fava beans. I've never had them, so I thought, let's try it. And look how huge, I mean, those are huge seeds. So keep in mind our rule of thumb with seeds this big, we're expecting to plant them pretty deep. And the back of the packet says 1 to 3 inches deep and every 4 to 6 inches for spacing. Now I have had to adjust my planting, my plan for the garden. Originally I was going to be putting tomatoes, basil, and a bunch of other plants here, but I've had to adjust everything to take into account crop rotation. And I'll go into that a little bit more in another video, but for today, just know we're planting fava beans here. This is also where I'm going to be putting some corn and green beans later. Fava beans are quite cold hardy and can handle down to 10 degrees Fahrenheit and should be planted out 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost. They do not like hot weather, so planting out early is key to success. Last year we grew tomatoes in this spot, and this year we're gonna grow the humble English pea. Now this is a pretty big seed, so this is a great thing to have kids help you with. I am planting out earlier than advised. I'm taking a risk. We usually only get one really big freeze a year, and we just had it 2 weeks ago. And peas can handle some cold temperatures. They can handle down to about 25, 28 degrees just fine. And sometimes they can handle less, even colder if you give them a little protection. So I'm gonna be ready to give them a little protection if needed. And I'm gambling on getting these in early because they don't like hot temperatures and they need about 2 months of fairly cool weather for them to be able to mature and give us a lot of fruit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these in the ground. We're gonna follow that same rule of thumb, however big it is, 2 to 3 times the depth. So this is gonna go in about 1 inch deep, and I'm gonna be planting them in kind of a W pattern. I keep my beds mulched over the winter to prevent weeds. So I'm pulling the mulch back before I make the furrows. Create a little furrow or a trench. Space your seeds 2 inches apart in all directions, creating a W or a zigzag pattern. I'm planting a row of peas on each side of this bed to try to get a glut of peas. Cover them over. And don't forget to water in well. Alright guys, that's it for this week's Grow Along. If this series is helping you, if you would leave some comments down below, they really encourage me and motivate me to continue making content. In the next month, we're going to be covering how to prune rose bushes, fruit trees, planting some fruit and some berries, as well as continue succession sowing in our vegetable and flower patches to make sure we keep having a bounteous harvest. Here's this week's garden chores. We're going to continue mulching our pathways and our beds to prevent erosion and weeds. If you haven't done it yet, it's time to chit those potatoes. To chip potatoes, you're going to cut them into pieces, let that heal over, and put them in a bright, frost-free environment. This is a good time to give your garden tools some much-needed love and attention before the busy spring. With the beautiful weather we're expecting, it's a good idea to bring your plants out and let them get some real sun and exposure to the elements. Be ready to protect any tender seedlings or bring them in as needed.